What is going on, guys? I'm Caleb also known as NFL K22, and this is Betting the NFL, week number 11. And as always, I got with me my co-host, Derek Wesley, also known as DWeezy. What's going on, man?
Man, it's another week ready to hit the grind and get into these lines. How about you, my man?
Oh, I'm doing amazing, man, because obviously I'm coming off a great week, back-to-back winning weeks. So if you're tuning in right now, you are very lucky because I am on a hot streak. I'm going to continue this hot streak going into this week with my five best bets of week number 11. But before we get to those picks, we gotta recap what happened last week. And like I said, I had a good week. But other than that, we'll go to what the numbers said. And the numbers said favorites went 8-6 straight up against the spread. They were terrible, terrible the favorites were just 3-11, and the home teams straight up were 6-8 and just 7-7 against the spread. But the road dogs 5-1 against the spread. Good week for road dogs. But the overs and unders, 4 overs, 9 unders, not a whole ton of points scored. Overall favorites, obviously holding strong, straight up 104 to 48, hitting that at 68.4%. And against the spread, they're hitting 77, 71, and 4, 52% against the spread for favorites. So not great. And then the home teams, straight up, they've been okay, 80 and 72, 52.6%. But they have been god awful against the spread, 67, 81, and 4, just 45% winning percentage against the spread for home teams. There is no home field advantage anymore. It just doesn't mean much when they get when they give up points at home. And obviously the overs and unders pretty even. 76 over, 73 unders. So not much of a trend going on there. But I think the biggest thing is the way teams have been hitting. I don't think I've ever seen it like this before. I don't think they've been hitting at that at that type of rate before.
Well, we've been talking about it for a couple seasons now, but it seems to be ever more prominent. Like you said, the home field advantage doesn't exist anymore. Outside of probably two or three teams, there's not many that teams you imagine. It's the old story. If you can take the crowd out of the game, well, to do that is a lot easier when you're talking about settings where the crowd may not be as invested as what you might traditionally think.
Yeah, it's been crazy to see. So yeah, if anything, you're gonna bet on anything, bet on the road teams because they've been hitting this season. So going forward, you might want to look at those matchups. But as far as my record, like I said, great week for me. Almost had a perfect week. I was a half a point away from going 5-0. Um, but my best pick was the Cardinals +1 versus the Jets. This was a toss-up game, according to the spread, at least. In reality, I didn't even need that 1 point. Probably should just went for the money line pick because this was a complete and dominant victory for the Cardinals. The Jets just look so bad on defense, which is supposed to be their strength. Um, and they just got torched, but they allowed the Cardinals to go up and down the field. They scored on 5 straight possessions in this game. We knew how bad Aaron Rodgers has been playing. He's been playing bad all season. We knew that going into the season that he was going to play bad, and guess what? He's been playing bad. But this was an easy pick for me. You would think coming off a win against against Houston Texans, they get 10 days rest, and they didn't even put up a fight in this one. They just got completely blown out, and that was good news for me. But like I said, my worst pick which wasn't even a bad pick. It was just a bad beat. The Lions -3.5 versus the Texans. Uh, yeah, they still won the game. They just didn't cover just by just a mere half point. But after 5 interceptions, I didn't think I was even going to have a chance at this one. But they came back. They always kept it close. They were always in the game. And then finally, obviously, they kicked the game-winning field goal. I was hoping they would miss it just so they can go in overtime and they might cover that spread with a touchdown. But they do get the win. But it was just a near loss. But man, 4-1. It was a great week for me.
Yes, anytime you're putting away multiple units in your pocket, you're definitely happy with the situation. I turned things around this week. Last week had a little bump in the road, but we're back on track, back to another winning week. Went 3-2. Told people to jump on the Chuba Hubbard touchdown prop, that we were getting back on that trend. I believe he was 4-5 last week, so moving to 5-6 as he racked up another TD in a game where you could have targeted his Russian props, going for 150 plus yards. Definitely some alternate numbers, cashing big plus money if you had the stomach to play them. But yeah, told the people last week, I believe, it was around plus 110, maybe plus 120. Might have been even money, but still had a plus number up there. And it's something I've mentioned a couple weeks now. Sometimes you come across players, regardless of the teams or scenarios, where uh, week in and week out are putting up a touchdown, and a lot of these books are still putting up plus numbers on them. I talked about it with Cooper Kupp a couple weeks back. Was able to cash, I believe, a plus 120 ticket on a touchdown with him. I was talking about St. Brown these past couple of weeks. Checked in on his prop for this upcoming week, and sure enough, the books finally came up off that plus number, giving him a minus number with all that's going on in Detroit. But yeah, you know, Chuba Hubbard, he's been, a threat to find the end zone. I'm not sure how how many have been through the air, but mainly a main rushing threat this season on the ground for the Panthers. Um, I know going into last week he was in the top 5. I believe he might be in the top 3 of rushing yards currently at the moment. So yeah, an unexpected, place to turn. There's many ways to fade my Panthers. That's for sure. We've talked about that, on here before. But Chuba Hubbard's a player that you definitely want to look to ride with if the situation and matchup aligns well.
Yeah, I wasn't gonna fade him against the Giants because that's not a bet you want to make betting on old Daniel Jones. Um, but that wrap up week number 10. But before we get into week number 11, if you guys can go ahead and hit the like button, subscribe to the channel if you have not already, and if you really want to help us out, you can join. If you really want to support us, you can get a subscription to Ko-Fi. Or coffee or whatever, however you want to say it. The link is in the description down below. So just click on that. Join whatever tier that suits you. But we just appreciate all for watching. We just like to make guys money. We make ourselves money. And that's what we about to do right now with our 5 best bets of week number 11. And since I had such a good week, I'm going to go ahead and start it off.
Oh,
And
exactly. Got to stay with the hot hand.
yeah, I'm going to take. I'm gonna take the team. A lot of these teams I take a lot just because they've worked for me so many times. So I'm gonna keep rolling the dice on them. I'm gonna take the Minnesota Vikings -6 at the Titans. Now this goes both ways. I bet on the Vikings against other teams, but I bet against the Titans against pretty much every team because they are just that bad. Now the Vikings may have gotten a little lucky last week against the Jaguars, but they played really good defense and were still able to cover a 4.5 point spread, even with a very low scoring game. Titans have only scored more than 20 points just once this season. So I just think it's going to be a huge challenge for them to really score anything against the Vikings defense. Brian Flores is going to, come up with a lot of different things to cause a lot of problems for Will Levis. Darnold should play better than he did last game. They were still able to move the ball. They just couldn't get into the end zone. So that's what they're going to need to do in this game is, when they get down there, actually punch it in. But overall, I got the Vikings taking this one, covering. It's a big point spread. but they are 6-3 against the spread. Last 9 games, Titans are 0-5 against the spread. So definitely on the Vikings this week.
Well, getting into my first play, I'm actually involved with that exact same game. Stick on the Vikings side, rocking with Aaron Jones to reach the end zone. If I'm not mistaken, they got the number currently at -110. Still hovering around that even money, depending on where you're shopping. But this is a matchup I like with Tennessee, who isn't, the worst rushing defense out there, but with the concerns of the past game when it comes to the Vikings, and you got Justin Jefferson out there, you got Jordan Addison. I think this year's a player people have tended to, maybe overlook or forget about a little bit, TJ Hawkinson. And all that being said, you know, it's multiple, basically a dragon with multiple heads. And Aaron Jones has been running hot recently. You can potentially look at his rushing prop to go over the yardage. Um, Not sure, I believe they got it around 70, 72 maybe for this game. Oh, no, excuse me. They got it lower than that. I'm saying around 59.5 for his rushing prop. That could be an area to target. But I do like the idea of Aaron Jones reaching the end zone in this game, even though that's something he hasn't done in the past 3 games.
All right. Get to my second bet, and this is the same situation. One team I bet against a lot, one team I've been putting a lot of money on, and I'm gonna go with them again. And that is the Detroit Lions -14 at home versus the Jacksonville Jaguars. It's a huge spread. Usually hate taking these type of spreads, but I mean, my goodness, I mean, how can I not when you have it's just a matchup of a really good team and a really bad team. This will be the game that finally probably gets Doug Peterson fired over there in Jacksonville, because they are gonna get hammered in this one. Um, but the Lions have shown that they can overcome a bunch of mistakes like they did last game. They've shown that they can cover a big point spread because they've blown out teams in multiple games. Um, so it's just like I said, it's just a bad matchup for the Jaguars. I think Goff, wants to bounce back after throwing all those interceptions, and I think he's going to really show out in this game, especially against a weak defense in the Jaguars. Um, but the Jaguars, couldn't really score last week either, so I don't really see them scoring this week. Um, Lions 6-1 against the spread last 7 games. So despite them not covering last week, they're still really good, and I expect them to cover a monster spread. But for them, it doesn't seem like a lot.
Yeah, as long as these Detroit Lions don't go out there and beat themselves, I don't think you have anything to worry about with the Jaguars being on the other side of the ball. I mean, it's something to be a team, to lose a game to a team that didn't score an offensive or a touchdown at all, I believe. But yeah, what we've seen out of the Jaguars this year has been disappointing. They've already ruled Trevor Lawrence out for this coming game, which I think just completely deflates any hopes for, I want to say, Jacksonville fans, because I highly doubt anybody out there is backing the Jacksonville Jaguars from a betting standpoint. Yes, it's a massive spread. You're talking about 14-point spreads in the NFL. Typically, this would almost be a system play and go the other direction, but there's really
Yeah.
nothing about this team, Jacksonville, whether offense or defense. Because, I had to play with the Vikings, and sure enough, I got to play with the Lions in this matchup. Targeting, y'all heard me mention TJ Hawkinson. Well, going to his replacement in Detroit with Sam Laporta, probably one of the hottest tight ends this year, possibly. I'd have to see the statistics, but definitely top 5 tight end. Going in a passing offense that's been one of the best in the league, and going up against one of the worst pass defenses in the league currently. Jaguars are giving up 261 yards a game. And we saw last week, even in a game where the Lions were beating themselves, they still found the end zone multiple times, multiple people, was able to cash a St. Brown anytime TD ticket last week, and we also saw Laporta rack up a TD in that game as well. He scored a touchdown in 3 out of the past 5 weeks, and things got off to a slow start this season, but as I mentioned, 3 out of the past 5 games he's racked up a TD, and we're going up. They're going up against a defense and a team where we could easily see the Lions put up 30 plus points in that game, and that means a lot of touchdowns. So the likelihood of one of those touchdowns ending up in Laporta's hands definitely feels good. We're looking at plus 160 on his touchdown prop in a game where y'all heard me mention St. Brown was a minus number. I believe he was minus 110. They got David Montgomery, over minus 200. Jahmyr Gibbs around minus 150. So the books are expecting a lot of TDs to be put up in this game. We're talking about an offense that has 3 players already seeing juice just to play their TD props. So I feel comfortable that there will be a lot of points scored by the Lions in this game, and I definitely feel comfortable that one of those TDs lands with Laporta.
Yeah, definitely see it the same way. Like Jared Goff to sputter around a little bit. Um, but before I get to my next bet, gotta say what's up to Jay. What's going on, man? Thanks for tuning in. All right. For my third bet of the week, I got the Kansas City Chiefs plus 2.5 at the Buffalo Bills. I mean, I just can't see the Chiefs losing after the way that game finished against the Broncos with them blocking that field goal to win the game. It just doesn't seem that they can lose. Like they can play as bad as they want, and they're still gonna come out the winners. They just have everything bounce their way. I think it's just gonna happen again. They may have like a tough battle, back and forth battle with the Bills, but ultimately they're going to come out the winner, and that's great when they're the ones that are the underdogs and they're the ones getting the points. Um, they're going to end up the win, so they may not even need the points. They're going to win the game. Um, we have seen that, like we were talking about earlier, home field advantage don't mean a lot or really anything at all this season. So the trend is going in favor of the away team. Chiefs are the road team on this one. So and then they get another break with the Bills receivers being injured. So we'll have to keep an eye on the injury report on those two guys. Um, but yeah, I think if the Chiefs just don't commit the turnovers that Patrick Mahomes has been having this season, keeps it at least relatively clean, they'll stay in it all the way to the end, and they'll probably come out most likely be the winners of this game. And it shows in this in the record against the spread because they are 10-4-1 against the spread in the last 15 games. So gotta take the Chiefs.
Yeah, you can call this one a bonus play because this was something I had already jumped on. I don't have the stat right in front of me, but it is insane how successful the Kansas City Chiefs have been as an underdog with Patrick Mahomes as the quarterback. And I see no reason why this won't continue. We kicked off this episode talking about how effective road teams have been. We've discussed, fairly lengthy over the past the lack of presence when it comes to home field, no home field advantage. And this was not, I jumped on the money line as soon as I seen that it was a plus number. I got them at plus 115. I'd taken a peek. I already see that number starting to tick down some around plus 110. So we already see a little bit of money coming in on the Chiefs. And I suspect that as we get closer to kickoff, we're going to see this line flip. And the Chiefs go into this game as a favorite. I mean, the fact that they're put as an underdog by the books is a bold step, in my opinion. And even if I lose this game, I would gladly lose this game because we've seen what Mahomes can do as an underdog, whether that's in the playoffs, the regular season. We saw this team, you know, what some might say struggle last year and still found their ways to the Super Bowl to win one and add another ring to their collection. And in a lot of ways, that's exactly what we're seeing this season. Yes, they have struggled offensively. Yes, they faced injury and had to overcome those hurdles. At the same time, we're still seeing a very dominant defense across the board. I think there might have been some questions. How might the pass defense hold up, getting rid of Snead over the offseason, trading them to Tennessee? Well, they haven't been hurting. I won't say there hadn't been any drop off. I'd have to look at the stats, but we don't. There's not an area of this defense where we look at and see a liability. And I think this past week with that blocked field goal, I actually saw a breakdown, basically from the previous kicks and PATs in that game, and I think that highlights the expectations and level of preparation that the Chiefs come into these games, because when you watch the replays ran back and in line, you see that if there was one person on that line of scrimmage to target to try and block that kick, they were going after him. And in the previous, I believe it might have been a field goal, but in the previous attempt, they almost got a block there. And so it seems almost mythical the way they was able to get that block at the end of the game to seal that win and steal it from the other side. But when you watch the way they approached the kicking game throughout the entirety of the game, you sit back and go, damn, they knew they were going to block that. So if I'm going to have a chance to take the Chiefs at a plus number, whether that be on the spread, whether that be on the money line, definitely going to be, you're going to find me on the Chiefs sides with Mahomes. So if that makes me a Swiftie, well, so be it. All right. Moving into my next play. Going to Thursday night. Thursday nights have been fairly successful for me. Hit a little same game parlay last week with Lamar Jackson and his over on his passing TD props plus Baltimore win. Now, I will say the degenerate in me was screaming for Cincinnati to kick the field goal, send it overtime, because then I might have had a shot at cashing my other same game parlay with Derrick Henry. But that's another story. Still cashed on a plus number. So it was a win when it was all said and done. And this week, I'm going to Devontae Smith with the anytime TD. You see it priced at plus 150 at the moment. Now, the Commanders have turned things around and been one of the more shocking teams this season. And defense hadn't necessarily been a liability, but given this matchup and the fact that, we've got a healthy A.J. Brown, teams coming off a bye a couple weeks ago, so had a chance to get a little bit more healthy. And also in this game, even though it was big news at the trade deadline, we still won't see Lattimore suiting up for the Commanders in this matchup. So I do believe that opens up more opportunities for Devontae Smith in this game. Now, I talked about it in a few weeks back. He was a player I went at with, TD prop and cash, even though he's not necessarily the main weapon in that offense. But when you got a run game like what Saquon's doing this year, I looked at his rushing prop. Bad boy sitting at 92.5 yards. Almost want to hit the under on it, but you can't. You can't touch that though. As dominant as he's been in the run game, there's zero guarantees that he won't go for 100. You have a dominant figure in the receiving game like A.J. Brown standing opposite of Devontae Smith. This was a number I was able to target and cash in on in the past. And given this matchup and the fact that we could see the Commanders' offense keep up with Philadelphia and make this a game where we do see not necessarily a lot of points, but teams pushing throughout the entirety of the game. I don't see this game ending up in any sort of blowout fashion. So, yeah, plus 150 with Devontae Smith, anytime TD.
Yeah, this is a tough game to really call either way. In any way you try to bet it, it's Thursday night game. Two good divisional teams fighting for the division lead. It's hard to say who's gonna shine in this one, individually or team wise. But yeah, but for my fourth bet of the week, I got the Seattle Seahawks plus 6.5 at the 49ers. Another tough divisional game we got in this one, but I always say big point spreads in a divisional game tends to favor the underdog. Yeah, I know the 49ers beat up on the Seahawks in the last matchup, but I think if they can get the run game going a little better than they did in the last game, I think they can keep that 49ers offense off the field a little more. The Seahawks are coming off a bye, getting a little bit healthy, a little bit of extra rest there. But mostly, I'm betting on the backdoor cover for this one. I think the 49ers probably have a comfortable lead going into the fourth quarter. Maybe Smith can throw them back into the game, and they can hit a relaxed 49ers defense in that fourth quarter to get that backdoor and cover that spread. 49ers haven't been all that great covering the spread, 4-9, 4-9 in the last 13 games. So I'm hoping for that backdoor spread. That's mostly what I'm betting on. Coming for the Seahawks to do that.
Yeah, I don't remember if it was last week or the week prior, but this was a team that we talked about a little bit as one to potentially fade down the line. A lot of that due to the injuries they're facing. Now you do see they have CMC back. He came back last week. Most, as far as I know, he's completely good for this week. But at the same time, we hadn't necessarily seen the 49ers return to form as what I think the expectations were at the beginning of the season. Only, a 3-point victory last week. It's a team, they've struggled against the spread, and it's hard. It's hard to make an argument against them covering in this game. I can't recall. I'd have to see the numbers, but I wouldn't be shocked. You rarely see a game won by 8 points, 9 points. This isn't a game I'd see. I think the 49ers will be winning by double-digit points. So that being said, you're talking about the odds being more in your favor to get in under that touchdown mark, whether it be, a late field goal, a late touchdown that puts them up by, 3-4 points, or as you said with the backdoor cover, that possibility that, the game is a, 10, 12, well, you got to get under 14. So, it's not, you got a 13-point victory with 2 minutes left in the game and the other team scores, a touchdown with 30 seconds left on the clock. You're not exactly too worried in that scenario, but you're still going to cash in on spread. Now, moving in, to my next play. Now, this is an offense that we've seen struggle a little bit, and again due to injury, going to the Miami Dolphins as they take on the Las Vegas Raiders and targeting Tyreek Hill's touchdown prop. Now, we hadn't seen much out of Tyreek this year. A lot of that due to the injury around Tua and just the lack of quality play out of a backup quarterback. He was able to rack up a touchdown in that LA game, which was still an ugly game overall. But I think things get back on track a little bit this week. We're talking about a rather ugly defense in Vegas with the Raiders. Have not been able to get to the quarterback. Struggle putting pressure on the quarterback, if I'm not mistaken. They're in the bottom 5 of the league when it comes to sacks. And this is the type of offense and the type of scheme with McDaniels, or you don't want to give the quarterback time in the backfield. And looking at it, yes, this team is 30th in the league in sacks. I believe they've struggled to get turnovers, and you give Tua and the speed of Cheetah out there on the outside time. There's nobody in the league that can cover. So unless you're planning on sticking, 3 guys on them, because I'm not sure a double team would be enough to contain them if you're not getting any pressure on the quarterback. Talking about getting Tyreek Hill at a plus number, I believe it was, what was it, plus 120. Give me 1 second. Right here. Yep, plus 120. I think, like I said, we see this offense turning around and possibly, another player where in a typical scenario, you're not talking about Tyreek Hill's touchdown prop being a plus number. If anything, you're looking at a minus number, minus 120, minus 150, something of that state. And as I've mentioned in weeks past, when you find players like this that do have a plus number on a prop, it's on. You got to jump on it. It was something I was able to cash with Cooper Kupp It's something I was able to cash with St. Brown. I talked about Chuba Hubbard and the streak he was, on with getting to the end zone week after week. And if the books are going to continue to put up a plus number with some of these players, you got to jump on it. So I'm going to be riding with Tyreek Hill to reach the end zone for a TD plus 120.
All right. Jay says Hill has caught over three people, so no. All right. For my final bet of the week, Bengals. Bengals at Chargers. I got the Chargers minus 1.5. I believe the Chargers defense is going to slow down Joe Burrow and the Bengals offense because we've seen that the Chargers play really good defense this season. Obviously, that's a Jim Harbaugh way. They've held every opponent to 20 points or less. And this is going to be a bigger challenge for them. Obviously, we just saw what the Bengals were able to do against the Ravens last week. They still ended up losing that game. But we have seen this offense get stifled by the Eagles and by the Giants earlier this season. Eagles kind of did it with the coverage and stopping the run. Giants did it with getting a lot of pressure on Joe Burrow and really giving him a hard time there. And I think the Chargers can really do kind of both in this game, and I think that will give them a better chance to win this game. I think what will give the Chargers the edge, though, is how well Justin Herbert has been playing. He's been doing really well in recent weeks, a lot better than he was to start the season. And they have scored, 26, 27, and 27 in the last three games. So very consistent on offense. And I think they're going to be consistent going into this week against the Bengals. Chargers 4-1 against the spread last 5 games. So I like it's just 1.5 points. So definitely like them to cover.
Yeah, I think in this matchup, this game's going to be decided by how much pressure can the Chargers generate on Joe Burrow and that backfield. We've seen that offensive line struggle at times, and I think that may persist some. Yes, it was. We saw them put up a lot of points against the Ravens, but the Ravens' pass defense has been one of the worst this league, or this year across the league, and potential area to target for passing props, TD props, depending on who they play. That matchup this week, people might want to look at Pickens, even Mike Williams, Fryermuth out of the tight end spot. But yeah, in this matchup, I think we see the Chargers try and keep away with the Bengals offense, utilizing their run game. We've seen that be a prominent aspect of the offense this season under Greg Roman, who, reference the Ravens. Anybody that's been a Ravens fan knows the man loves to run the ball. He might struggle to do any other things in the offense, but the man loves to run the ball. And, working with a running back in a backfield that he basically had in Baltimore, we've seen them have success throughout the season with the run game, utilizing Justin Herbert less so. And that could be possibly due to the lack of passing weapons, but it still led to success. And I think, a small spread in this game, you're basically talking about just needing to win outright. I do think that the Chargers walk away with the W in this game in a lower scoring affair. Now, moving into my last play for the week, going to Nico Collins as the Houston Texans take on Dallas Cowboys. Now, this Cowboys defense has been struggling for weeks, and I'm feeling really good as long as Nico's on the right side of the field. We've heard a lot of talk about Sun and the end zones. Just put my man in the right end zone. He had to step up more in the offensive game with the loss of Stephon Diggs, and this is I do believe that Dallas defense, you can point out a lot of areas where they've struggled, whether it be across the defensive line, whether it be in the the DBs and the safeties. We're also seeing give me 1 second so I can double check this. But Houston's coming off that close win where they got up early on the Detroit Lions and then failed to score a single point in the second half. And I think it's going to be the Dallas Cowboys that catch a bit of that brunt from those mistakes. And so coming into this game, with the past game, I think we see Nico Collins be a very prominent figure. And I'd be shocked if he didn't find himself in the end zone with the ball. We're able to get this number currently at the moment around plus 110. So the books are saying that, it's damn near even money. Nico Collins finds his way to the end zone. I'll be riding with that ticket, hoping it's one I'm cashing this week.
Just have to kick me when I'm down, don't you?
I'm a Panthers fan. I can kick anybody when they're down.
Yeah. Well, it depends. Well, we'll see. We'll see. I mean, maybe Deron Bland's back. Maybe he's not. We're still waiting on it. We haven't seen him all season. Even if he does, but we don't.
And that's the beauty of props. I don't even have to win. Y'all can go out there and just stomp the Texans, and I can still cash.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. If we have him out there, not we'll have to see about that. But yeah, probably. I mean, if we don't, then yeah, it probably an easy cash in for you because we are not good right now, playing really bad, and then letting all kinds of guys scoring us. So yeah, it's pretty sad over here in Dallas, but not sad for me because I've been winning, and I'm going to continue to win this week, in at least money wise. And I'm going to continue to make you guys some money this week. So safe betting out there. Only bet what you can afford to lose. And you can tell everybody where they can find you, DWeezy.
Yes, the folks can reach me here on YouTube at Backyard Action Media. And I'm also on Twitter and Blue Sky at The Yard Bet. And also starting up on Instagram with BAM Sports. So you can check me out on all those platforms. I'll be putting up content. I even have a Discord if people want to check that out with news and info on betting across many sports. Again, Backyard Action Media. Feel free to come check me out.
You can find me at NFLCape22 on Instagram and Twitter /X. And you can find me on this channel on Friday. Friday's 3:00. But usually, we've not been at 3:00 in recent weeks, but we'll probably have a pre-recorded episode this week, but it'll still be up on the channel on Friday. Good friends, better rivals, with my co-host.
And I also forgot one thing. I'll be doing a show tomorrow night where I'll be covering live markets, one for the NBA and also for Thursday night football. Proper betting over on my channel, Backyard Action Media.
All right, tune in for that. Tune in for me and Ferris as we talk Cowboys, as we talk Giants, which is just that's just a sad show. Like what? But still tune in because we still have a lot of fun. Even though both our teams are bad, we still go at it no matter what. So definitely entertaining to watch. But as for this show, that'll be that. And like I always say, let's get ready to make that money.